According to dictionary.com and any other word reference material out there, the word lifeware does not exist. It simply is not a word. Now, it doesn't make much sense that I would use this word in the title of my presentation. And I'm sure most of you noticed this massive title flaw at first glance, right? Especially all the uber talented content creators in here. But before you judge me, and you judge any future statements I'm about to make, I want you to know that the selection of this word was very intentional. Now, one of the most powerful attributes in the WordPress community is creating things that did not exist prior. Okay, I want to say that again. One of the most powerful attributes in the WordPress community is creating things that did not exist prior. Now, another simple term for this is progress. And the progress that is created can be used by all of us. The selection of this word lifeware is very special to me. And I'm going to take you on a journey showing you the meaning of that word. Now, my hope is at the end of this journey, this non-word will become part of your vocabulary, and every time you think about or talk about WordPress, you'll remember that it's not just software, but lifeware. Okay? How many people have ever been on a date? Raise your hand. Some kids in here. Are their hands up? How many people have ever been on a good date? Raise both hands. Okay? Now, stand up if you've ever been on a bad date. Look around, look around. I feel your pain. I've been there. I've been there. Now, finally, scratch your head if you have no idea how dating and WordPress are anything alike. Bizarre, right? They really are, and I'm going to show you. So there's actually 4 different types of dating, and each type has a certain goal. The first type of dating is dating for fun. Now, the goal of this type of dating is enjoyment. This is that no strings attached type of dating. We've all done that at least once, right? The second type of dating is dating to see. Now, the goal of this type of dating is knowledge. This type of dating is a bit more intentional. Yes, you can still have fun, but you're wanting to see if it can become more serious. Our third type of dating is dating to decide. Now, the goal of this type of dating is making a yes or no decision about marriage. The old-fashioned term for this type of dating is courtship. Then our final type of dating is dating after marriage. Now, this doesn't mean dating other people after you get married. While that might be a type of dating, it certainly isn't a smart one. The goal of this type of dating is growth. Now that you've made a long-term commitment with somebody, you need to grow and nurture that love so it can flourish. Okay? Now, WordPress is a pretty slick vehicle that can accomplish a wide variety of goals. Just like with dating, WordPress users can be put into a specific category based on the goal they want to achieve. I've actually defined the top 4 categories of WordPress users. And as I go through them, I want everybody to listen carefully and decide which category you belong to. Okay? So our first category of WordPress user is WordPress for work. Now, the goal of this user is employment. Now, this user depends on WordPress for their income and their livelihood. These can include freelancers, designers, developers, consultants, or employees of any WordPress-centered business. This user makes up almost 27% of all WordPress users. I love that fact because almost a third of everybody in the world that uses WordPress depends on it for their income. How many in here depend on WordPress for their money? Look around. That's actually that's more than a third in here. That's awesome. How many people are WordPress for work users? Our next set of users is the WordPress for share. Now, the goal of this user obviously is sharing. These type of WordPress users set up WordPress in a way to share a particular interest or niche with others. These can include blogs, video blogs, podcasts, or any other community-centered site. Now, WordPress, in my opinion, and hopefully shared by many of you in this room, is the best platform for sharing interactive content. And just to give you a fact to support that, there are over 402 million people looking at over 25 billion WordPress pages each and every month. WordPress is getting used and it's getting shared. How many of you are WordPress for Share users? Awesome. Our third user is WordPress for Marketing. Now the goal of this type of user is an online presence. This type of user sets up WordPress in a way to market their products, services, or ideas. A very common user in this category are business owners or any employees of a business. Now WordPress is an absolute powerhouse platform that has an arsenal of marketing and promotional plugins that can drive traffic to a site. How many of you are WordPress for Marketing users? Awesome. Our final category of user is the WordPress for Giving user. Now the goal of this type of user is contribution. These are some of my favorite users because they're the ones that use WordPress in a way to contribute back to the community. A very common user in this group are developers that create free resources or free plugins to help other users. Another one that we have to mention, since we're here, WordCamp St. Louis, are the people that make this event possible. So if you're a WordPress developer that's ever created a free resource for other users, or if you've ever been part of the execution of a WordCamp, can you please stand up so we can recognize you? Get up, Manny. Awesome. So we talked about dating a little bit and the specific goals that there are, right? Fun, explore, get serious, and grow love, right? Just like with WordPress, there's a specific goal depending on the type of user you are. Make some money, let others know what you have to say, get noticed online, or give back to others. Now, being successful in dating and being a successful WordPress user requires a relationship. Now, a relationship is defined as two or more people, objects, or concepts that come together. And as you all know, a relationship requires time and sacrifice in order to be successful, right? All of you have sacrificed your time on this lovely St. Louis Saturday to come to this WordCamp in an effort to learn something based on the type of WordPress user you are. Now, whether you know it or not, you already have a relationship with WordPress. And hopefully at the end of today, that relationship is going to be stronger through the awesome talks and the amazing networking that you're going to experience. Are you excited about that? Okay. So I really want each and every one of you to define yourself as one of the 4 WordPress users that I went through. Now, when I was going through those, you may have said, well, I'm this, and you know what, I'm all of them. But I really want you to pick the one that is most in line with the goals that you have in the way that you use WordPress. And the reason I want you to do this is because it will allow you to build a roadmap to the talks that you're going to see today. And doing this will avoid you listening to information that is not in line with the way you use WordPress. Does that make sense? How many of you have ever sat down to a WordCamp talk and within 5 minutes you got up and went to another one? Be honest. Okay? And the reason this happens is the information that's being talked about is either something you know really well or it's completely way over your head. Now, I want to avoid that for you today. So if you are a WordPress for Work user, spend time going to those talks today that teach you how to up your game as to the technical aspect of the work you provide. If you are a WordPress for Share user, spend time going to the talks that teach you how to attract the audience you desire. If you're a WordPress for Marketing user, go into those talks that teach you how to drive traffic to your site. And if you're a WordPress for Giving user, I adore you, and you are perfect already. Please be patient with the rest of us, and don't get mad when we ask you the difference between WordPress.com and WordPress.org. But the important thing to remember here is whatever you learn today, that you go out and you take action on it. Okay? How many people have 1 to 2 children? Okay? 2 to 3. 3 to 4, sorry. 3 to 4 children. Okay? 5 plus. All right. So I am happily married and the proud father of 5 daughters, ranging in age from 4-year-old twins all the way up to a 17-year-old boy-crazy teenager. And you could just imagine the madness that happens in my house on a daily basis. Look at the personalities of these girls. They're absolutely crazy. They're nuts. I do love them dearly, though. I wasn't gray about 3 years ago, but I'm completely, turning gray. Now, I grew up in Buffalo, New York, and my wife is from what I like to call Old York, England, and we ended up in sunny Southern California in 2000. Now, our closest relative lives about 1,000 miles away in Denver, and most of my family is still back in Buffalo. All of my wife's family is still in England. So we're pretty much on our own as far as raising our children. And I can tell you that we've seen some pretty difficult times over the years. Now, my wife has worked her entire adult life until about a year ago. We sat down and we decided that it would be best for her to be a stay-at-home mom. She was working nights and I was doing a miserable job of checking homework and preparing dinner and especially brushing hair. There's so much hair in my house and I'm horrible at it. But this meant that I alone would be financially responsible for supporting my family. And this freaked me out a little bit. Fortunately, I had spent the last 8 years building a relationship with WordPress. And inside of 18 months, WordPress would completely change my life and change the lives of the people you see in this picture. So how many of you can guess what type of user I am? WordPress for work. Good. So let me ask you a question. Isn't it better having somebody else say something nice about you rather than you saying it yourself?
Absolutely.
Right? I'm the type of person, I don't even like having a birthday party or any type of self-centered event, right? Especially in my presentations. I don't like it being about me. I don't like talking about myself. I encourage other presenters, don't talk about yourself too much. But today I'm going to break that rule. And the reason I'm going to break that rule today is my exploration into WordPress was so unplanned and so unimaginable that I really need to share this story with you. So before I start rambling on about myself, I want to introduce you to something called WordPress SOS. According to an article that was written at codeinwp.com in January of this year, there are over 66 million self-hosted WordPress sites on the web. There are over 77 million WordPress blogs at WordPress.com. That's a lot of sites, huh? So you can imagine that there are millions of WordPress users all over the world. The best are in this room now. And the skill set of all these users is different. So a little over a year ago, my company did some independent research learning the different skill sets of each user, and we came up with the scale of skill, or WordPress SOS. So the skill set growers makes up almost half of all WordPress users. I call them the growers because these are the users that feed the WordPress ecosystem and allow the community to thrive. These users can be identified as the ones that have been using WordPress consistently for less than 1 year or have just been introduced to WordPress but haven't used it yet. Are there any people in the room that have just been introduced to WordPress but haven't used it yet? Oh, I love it. Love it. I can't tell you how many WordCamps that I've been to where I've met attendees that are simply there to learn more about WordPress before they dive in. And this is for the people that just raised their hand. I always tell them the same thing. The best way to learn about WordPress before you dive in is to dive in. Don't wait. Next we have our promoters. Now, our promoters possess a certain skill set that allows them to do most things with WordPress. These users usually depend on WordPress for their income. Now, I call them the promoters because these are the users that take WordPress extremely serious. And they are the ones that will encourage the rest of the world, whether they're building websites or not, to use WordPress. They are the ones that take it very seriously. And they want other people to grow with WordPress. Then at the top of this scale, we have our advanced users. So our advanced users possess a skill set that allow the growers and the promoters to use WordPress at its full potential. These are the people that are changing lives through code. Now, if you are a grower or a promoter, at some point today you will easily notice an advanced user. Because when they're talking, you may actually see their mind moving. In some cases, you might even ask yourself, what language are they speaking? But these are the people that are changing lives through code for the growers and the promoters. Now, it's important to remember, as we travel through this life work called WordPress, that all these skill sets complement each other. And together, they work like an engine that fires at full speed all the time. I'm a promoter, not an advanced user. Who's a promoter? All right. Advanced users. Nice. We're going to track you down today, ask you a bunch of questions. And our growers? Love the growers is actually my favorite type of user. So many moons ago, I was a district manager at Linens and Things. Anybody remember them? You heard it a little bit in my introduction. Now, I was living in Long Beach, California, and my office was 50 miles away in Orange County. I was responsible for 6 stores in the Orange County area, and my main responsibility was driving sales and customer service goals. Now, this was fun, and this was great, but I wasn't really enjoying what I was doing. It was very stressful. I was traveling a lot. I didn't spend a lot of time with my family. During one of my visits to other stores, I met a department manager named Andre. Now, Andre was one of the most interesting gentlemen I'd ever met. The conversations we used to have were just mind-blowing. During one of our talks, he told me a story about something he did in college with his buddies. And no, this is not going where you think, okay? Andre built a web page using Flash that had 1 million squares on it, 1 pixel by 1 pixel in size. These squares were sold as advertising space, and when you hovered around the page, the squares would expand so you could see the full ad, and then you could click off to the website. Andre's goal was to sell 1 million squares for $1 each in 1 year. How much money is that? $1 million, all right. Mathematicians in here, I love it. So Andre didn't reach his goal, but he did manage to sell almost 200,000 squares. And the entire thing was automated. Now, this was the first time I heard the term, make money while you sleep. Man, I was fascinated with this story. I couldn't sleep for like 3 days. I wanted to make my 200,000 while I was asleep. Shoot, I would have been happy with 2,000. Actually, I would have been happy with a couple hundred. Making money without doing something? That sounded so interesting to me. So I looked at Flash. Wow, man, Flash, woo! This is the coolest thing I ever saw on the internet. Oh my gosh, it was so cool. This is going to be the future. So I thought, I'm going to teach myself Flash. Yeah, right. That lasted about 6 months. I don't even think I learned anything. I quit trying to learn Flash because that's all I did was try to learn. And then I jumped into HTML and CSS. Now, in 2006, the first quarter of 2006, Linens and Things was bought out by a private equity firm. And they had one goal in mind. They wanted to liquidate all inventory and file bankruptcy. Thanks a lot. Now, I was lucky enough to have some friends at the executive level that told me their plans so I could get out before I was pushed out. But I'd been in retail a long time, and like I said, I wasn't really inspired with what I was doing. I wasn't enjoying it. I was making decent money, but I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. I had been playing around with HTML and CSS for a couple months, and I thought, got an idea. Maybe I could sell websites to small business owners. I'm sure that's possible, right? So I gave Linens and Things my notice, and for the next 3 months I completely panicked. I didn't have the confidence to sell something I was still learning. Now, one thing I did learn really quickly is that confidence can build rapidly when your rent's past due and you're hiding your car so it doesn't get repossessed. True story. So I joined the local Chamber of Commerce in hopes that, man, my phone's going to ring like crazy. I'm going to have tons of business, not going to know what to do with, right? I joined the chamber. That didn't happen. That's why you're laughing. But my phone did ring one day. It was an employee of the Chamber of Commerce inviting me to a networking lunch. Now, I asked a friend of mine to come with me, kind of like a wingman. I was nervous. I didn't know what to expect. I'd never been to a networking lunch. Been to lots of lunches. Never been to a networking lunch. I took 3 business cards with me, and I walked into the event, and there were over 100 business owners there. During the check-in, the lady told me at some point during the meeting, you are going to be given an opportunity to give a 30-second commercial about your business and ask them what type of referral you're looking for. I said, what? And she repeated it. True story. She repeated it. I think I said, what again? I was completely petrified. Yeah, sure, I had given massive district training sessions to hundreds of people and had no problem with public speaking. But this was so much different. I was asking a group of professionals for business. Now, this meeting would set a chain of events in motion that would lead me to this very stage today. I was given a referral by a mortgage broker to a woman named Susan. Susan was a real estate agent that specialized in beachfront property. She was dating the designer Fred Siegel at the time, actually. Now, Susan wanted to create a website to advertise this niche. Susan would go on to become my very first website client. I was completely addicted with networking at this point. Soon after Susan, I was attending 2 to 3 networking meetings each week, and I was getting 4 to 6 qualified referrals for website builds every month. So while I was becoming a master networker, my HTML and my CSS skills were still in the infant phase. I can't tell you how many times my clients would ask me, hey, is it possible for my website to do this? And me knowing that I had no idea what they were talking about, I always said the same thing. Of course, that's easy. Do it all the time. No problem. And then I had to rush to the web to figure out how to do it. And 9 times out of 10, I figured it out. I was also cheating a bit. I was using a drag and drop design software called Site Builder. So one day, a client of mine that owned a pool cleaning service asked me to take their website offline. I was curious. I asked him why. He said he rebuilt his company's site using WordPress. I said, well, wait a minute. You rebuilt your company's site using a blog platform? What's wrong with you? He said, no, not at all. Now, you got to understand something about this client of mine. He was not tech savvy at all. I mean, he had trouble sending emails. But he showed me this new site that he built using WordPress. I was completely blown away. The site was beautiful. I then thought, maybe WordPress could allow me to cheat even more. Make me look like an even better website builder. So in 2009, 2 years after I sold my first HTML site, I rebuilt my company's site using WordPress, and all future builds were done using WordPress. Okay, I need everybody in this room to take a deep breath because I might say something that is offensive to some of you. Okay? Please try not to judge me. Is everybody ready? I don't see head shaking. Are we ready? Okay, here it goes. I'm nervous. I am not a Mac person. I've always used PCs. Wow. See, I was worried people were going to get up and walk out. You guys clapped. That's awesome. Thank you, WordPress community, for accepting my flaws. But I do want to tell you a story about an old office neighbor of mine that was a Mac person, diehard Mac person, tried to convert me for years. He was telling me one day about Apple support and how it worked. You paid a flat fee, and they serviced your issue until it was resolved. I thought, man, this would be a brilliant concept for WordPress support. So one Sunday afternoon, while my wife was asleep on the couch in 2011, I created my current company. Now let's fast forward to August of 2015, when I decided I was going to stop doing website builds for clients and only focus on WordPress support. This is when I really began to immerse myself in the WordPress community. I didn't even know WordCamps existed until 2015. Didn't even know they existed. Never even been to one. But I decided to immerse myself in the community because I wanted to learn everything there was to know about how people used WordPress. Now, within 6 months of me deciding to stop building websites for a living and only focus on support, I was making more money than I ever did in my entire life. So, why am I telling you all this? Who cares, right? I mean, if you're like me, and you come to an event like this to learn something, you hear a story like mine, you're like, yeah, I mean, that's cool, but how's that going to help you? Sounds selfish, right? It's not selfish at all. Listen to something that I just said. You are here to learn something. And learning something means you're gaining knowledge. Now, the reason I'm telling you how this lifeware called WordPress changed my life and change the lives of those around me is because I want to inspire you. Now, there are a lot of different ways to open up your mind to new learning and new information. Today is going to be cram-packed with new information for most of you. Now, I want to prep you. I want to get your mind ready to take it in and then to take action on it. One of the easiest ways to do that is through inspiration. Inspiration is the adrenaline shot for successful learning. Okay, I got to say that again because I love this one. Inspiration is the adrenaline shot for successful learning. Are there any hockey fans in here? Oh wow, that's a lot. There's always at least one or two in a crowd of hundreds. The part of the country I live in, Southern California, they don't even believe hockey's a sport. Well, they did when Wayne Gretzky was there, but he's gone for a long time now. Most people that live there have never even seen a hockey game. Now, I've played hockey since I was 4 years old. I still play, and it's actually quite funny because me and my teammates, we're not playing to get better. We're just playing so we don't get worse, right? But one of the greatest examples of inspired learning is a gentleman named Herb Brooks. Herb Brooks was the head coach of the 1980 USA men's hockey team. Now, back in this time, the Russians completely dominated hockey all over the world. In 1979, the Russians came to the States to do an exhibition game against the New York Rangers, which were the best team in the professional league. The Russians beat the Rangers 10-0, demolished them. Herb Brooks was the third person that they interviewed for the head coaching position. The two coaches before him had a strategy of beating the Russians based on talent. Herb's strategy had nothing to do with talent. In fact, he said the USA hockey team is not good enough to win on talent alone. The Russians were just a much better team. So what Herb did is, through a bunch of exercises that he created, he inspired them to learn a new way of playing hockey. And in 1980, Herb led the team to beat the Russians and win the gold medal. There's actually a Disney movie about this called Miracle. If you've ever seen it, it's one of my greatest movies. Inspiration is the adrenaline shot for successful learning. So, not sure if you knew this, but we live in a society full of phobias. There literally is a phobia for just about anything. There is. For example, fear of the color purple. It exists. It's out there. Never met anybody, but fear of dinner parties. I get that one. New people, different environment. The fear of sourness. I love Sour Patch Kids. Who loves Sour Patch Kids? Don't have that fear. And then the next one here is for all the designers in the room. Fear of opinions. Yeah, all the designers are laughing right now. And then finally, we have the fear of everything. Now, there's also something called zobophobia. And this is the fear of learning. Now, if there's anybody in this room that suffers from the fear of learning, we are going to do some healing today. Ready to get healed? When I was a kid, going to McDonald's was such a treat. I mean, it was a family experience, and it was so special to me as a kid, and my sisters as well. When I was 9 years old, I learned about Hamburger University. Hamburger University was founded in 1961 in the basement of a McDonald's. Yeah, McDonald's had basements back then. In Illinois. Not too far from here, actually. Hamburger University is the premier training and development center for McDonald's employees. Now, I was fascinated with this. I was certain that once I was of age, I was going to go to Hamburger University. I was going to graduate from Hamburger University. I was going to be a McDonald's manager. Couldn't wait. It's actually really funny because in elementary school, we used to do these like in-class exercises where you had to talk about or draw what you wanted to be when you grow up. And I always drew the same thing, this big massive cheeseburger with a door in it and me walking through it. And then I'd take it home and my parents would think I was crazy. Now, I never made it to Hamburger University, but I did see the documentary Super Size Me 3 times, and I think I learned everything I needed to know about McDonald's. But don't get me wrong, I could completely murder some nuggets any day of the week. Love me some nuggets. But while McDonald's has a very prestigious training and development center, something like WordPress does not. There is no official WordPress delivered training program for us. That doesn't mean that there aren't great resources out there where you can learn and master WordPress. And in most cases, those resources are free or next to nothing. Technology moves pretty fast, right? Has anybody ever heard of TLC? Couple hands. So right now, I'm thinking, like, all the women in the room are, I love that band. And in their head, they're like, don't go chasing waterfalls, right? And then the men are like, yeah, my significant other's always asking for more of this. Well, that's not TLC at all. TLC stands for Technology Life Cycle. This is the lifespan of new technology. The average lifespan of new technology is 6 to 9 months. That means any new technology created today will be on the decline 6 to 9 months from now. And the reason for that is it's either been upgraded or it's been made obsolete. Now, WordPress is no different. I bet every one of you, when you log into your sites at the end of today or at some point today, there will be an update bubble in your admin section. There will be. I promise you.
Use it.
You have to stay on track with the changes that happen in WordPress. You have to continue to soak up and learn about these changes so you can get the most out of your WordPress experience. So I'm going to give you 2 things that will completely change the way you learn forever. Now, these things are so basic, but so powerful. We ready? We ready to take it in? Okay. So the first thing you must do and never forget when learning is walk before you run. Sounds really cliche, right? This is so important. I can't tell you how many new WordPress users I've met that have never built anything online before, and the first thing that they want to do is go and learn JavaScript. And the reason they want to do this is because somewhere somebody told them that JavaScript is the future of WordPress. Now that's great that they want to learn JavaScript. So do I. That's great. But that would be like me wanting to build a house and the first thing I go out and learn is how to decorate. This doesn't make sense, right? One of the greatest examples of walk before you run is my 12-year-old daughter, Caitlin. Caitlin is constantly pestering me to do extra jobs around the house so she can make some money. Finally, I told her, you know what, why don't you go and learn WordPress? I can give you a bunch of work. And I said it like angrily. I wasn't trying to like coach her. I was like, get out of my face and go learn WordPress. So she did. She went to WordPress.com. She opened up a free account. She has an email address through the school I didn't even know about. She opened up a free account. She started using the onboard tools to build her first website. Now, she's been doing this for a few months now, and she's just now at that stage where she's asking questions about CSS and some customizations that the onboard tools don't offer. And I told her in the beginning that I wasn't going to help her at all. I told her I would show her where to get the answers to her questions, but I wasn't going to help her. And the reason I told her that is because I wanted her to be completely invested in her learning. I wanted her to do it on her own. Caitlin is a great example of walk before you run because she started at the bottom of her skill set and she's working her way up. If you've never built anything online and you want to start learning JavaScript, you're going to have to work backwards. And that's just a recipe for disaster and aggravation. It's kind of like learning Flash. The second thing you must always do and never forget when learning is don't be lazy. Now, successful learning requires discipline, right? Most things in life require discipline. Most things that advance us requires discipline. In November of last year, I hurt my back playing hockey. And I had tried to nurse it a little bit on my own, but the pain and the discomfort was just not getting any better. Now, I hadn't been to the doctor in almost 15 years. Just no reason to go. Healthy as a horse, right? But I had to do something because it was just out of hand. I did the whole urgent care thing, went there a few times, and I can say they gave me some great pain meds. Oh, I love the pain meds, but my back just wasn't getting better. So they recommended that I see a specialist. Now, in order to see a specialist, you need a referral. In order to get a referral, you need a primary care doctor to give it to you. So I made my appointment, and during the routine checkup, the doctor told me that based on my age and my height, I was 20 pounds overweight. Now, a little side story here. The new patient forms that I filled out at this doctor's office were extremely bizarre. There were some questions on there that are not even appropriate for this audience. But one of the questions on there was asking if I ever ran a red light. How is that even... I mean, what does that have to do with my health? Anyways, here I am, 20 pounds overweight. And I'm a little concerned. I'm not playing hockey anymore because my back's hurt. That was like the only exercise I got. I have a job that puts me in a chair most of the day. So I thought, how am I going to stop this 20 pounds from becoming 30, 40 pounds very quickly? So light bulb went off, right? I'm going to stop drinking beer. That'll do it. No more beer. So I did that for 2 weeks. And wait, there is no happy ending. I did that for 2 weeks, and I was able to lose 8 pounds. Now, week 3 came around, and I wanted to celebrate the first 2 weeks. And I ended up gaining 4 pounds back from the 8 that I lost. But the reason my results went down or didn't stay consistent is because I had no discipline. Okay? You have to be disciplined when learning. WordPress, like I said, changes so fast. It's not even a 6 to 9 month life cycle. It's like a 6 to 9 day if we're lucky, right? You have to not be lazy, and you have to stay on these changes, okay? So some of the best learning I've ever soaked up when it comes to WordPress is interacting with other WordPress users. This is something that all of you are going to do a lot of today, I hope. You have to get out of your comfort zone today and start talking to some strangers. Now, how many of you would say that I am an extrovert? Okay? How many of you would say I'm an introvert? Okay? How many of you would say there's just something wrong with me? Okay. Thank you for being honest. That's good. So those of you that said I'm an introvert are 100% correct. Just because I can stand here in front of you and give a presentation, and I love networking, and I love being in front of people, and I love talking to people, that doesn't mean I'm an extrovert. The way I recharge my batteries and refresh myself is by being alone. And that's the introvert that I am. Now I want to introduce you to something called the open conversation circle. When 2 or more people are having a conversation in a room full of people, in a closed circle, they are telling the other people in the room, leave us alone and don't talk to us. Now they're not really saying that, just their body language and the way that they're positioned in this circle is telling the other people that. Now on the other hand, if 2 or more people are having a conversation in an open circle, the other people in the room can be part of that conversation. It's more welcoming, right? So throughout today, you are going to be in rooms that are having conversations. And if you are not in a conversation circle, look for the open ones and join. Introduce yourself. Ask a question. Also, if you're already part of a conversation circle, take notice if it's open or closed. And if it's closed, open it up. And then to all my super outgoing, super talkers, if you see some closed circles out there, make sure you go up there and scold them. Okay? Tell them to open up. Now this simple exercise will completely enhance your WordCamp experience. You will be so surprised who you meet and what you learn just by doing this. Okay? Can we commit to that a little bit? All right. So if you truly want to harness the power of WordPress and use it to your full advantage, you have to start experimenting with it. Don't be afraid. The more mistakes you make, the faster you're going to learn, right? Now, I literally started with 0 experience 8 years ago. And through tons of mistakes and some tears, I gained enough knowledge to build a career. Now let me say that another way. What I learned over the last 8 years from WordPress and from the people involved in WordPress has built a future for me that can financially support my family. Now I'm so humbled by this. Never did I think I could do all this until I started to do all this. Now at some point this weekend, I would like for all of you to think of one thing that you've always wanted to do with WordPress, and then get on it. Don't wait. You know, knowledge is not a well-trained dog. The information that you're looking for won't come to you when you call on it. You have to go out and get it. And then you have to take action on it. So, let us just think about today only. There's 2 thoughts that I would love for each and every one of you to walk away with from today's event. The first thought is being proud that you made the decision to be here today versus doing whatever it is you normally do on a Saturday. And I'm sure for most of you, whatever you normally do on a Saturday probably requires 0 thought process. The second thought I want you to walk away with is the satisfaction of learning something new. Regardless of what skill level you're at right now in WordPress, be on a mission today to learn something that gets you fired up and then take action on it. This is one of the best things that you can accomplish here at WordCamp. And when that happens, I want you to remember it so you can pat yourself on the back when it happens again. So remember, WordPress is not just software, but lifeware, and it's alive because of all of you. So let's go out there and have an awesome day of learning. Yeah. Did you get some good pictures? Yeah, thanks.